All right, y'all, welcome to PTC Cast episode 35. Today, Chris and I talk about recovering through a surgery or a setback, self-talk, positive and negative, and we answer a couple questions at the end.
Yep.
This episode is brought to you by ProgressThroughChange.com, where you can get your 4 easy habits for fat loss guide. It's about 10 seconds, if even that, to download.
Yeah.
You could try to speed run it, and it'll change your life, man. It's a free PDF. Doesn't cost you nothing. Enjoy the show. When was our first episode? Was that March or April of last year?
I honestly don't know. That's crazy.
Or
It's been a while.
Maybe? I don't know. I really would have to check because we try to do one once a week, and we're at 30-something now.
Yeah, I think we're at like 35.
So we're somewhere
maybe
in there.
36.
35, 36. Today, man, I want to get a little bit into what's been going on with me the last couple weeks. I had a hernia surgery a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
It's been about, 11 days, something like that. And, previous to that hernia surgery, I was, in a pretty significant amount of pain from said hernias.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been in the gym for 3 or 4 weeks now. I haven't been able to lift. I was able to go back to work this week, but, I kind of just got to point at everybody and tell them what to do instead of
you can't lift
moving.
more than 5
5
pounds.
pounds. Yep. 5 pounds is my surgeon's hard rule. And I train my surgeon, so I see him.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I see him 3 times a week, actually. And so
Wow.
he's one that will keep me in check. But anyways, today I really just kind of wanted to get into, everything I've been doing around that and, ways I've been trying to keep myself structured and moving the ways that I can.
Yeah, because when you have that surgery, it puts all of that, your previous life at a halt. For temporarily.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was prepping for a bodybuilding show. I think I was 10 weeks out.
Yeah.
I was 10 weeks out when I had to stop, lifting. But yeah, man, so I've pivoted and I've just tried to focus on, what I can. And, right now, obviously I can't resistance train, but freaking thank God I can walk as much as I'd like.
Yeah.
So right now I'm walking and I'm doing my best to keep my nutrition in check. So my current goal is just focusing on fat loss. So quick, easy pivot, resistance training is honestly always the fun part to me. Eating a lot of food after a heavy lifting session is also,
a
the
very
other fun
good,
part for me.
indulgent part.
Yeah, but it's okay, man. Like, it gives me something else to focus on, and it gives me an opportunity to, miss the thing that I used to do every day for 10 years in a row.
Yeah.
So this is by far the longest I'll have been out of the gym. But, it's actually been kind of a cool process, just slowly, reacclimating myself. My surgery was not this previous Monday, but the one before.
Yeah.
So day of, I'm obviously on my butt all day. That Tuesday I was on my butt all day, but I believe it was Wednesday. I went halfway down the street and halfway back with my walk. So we're talking it probably took me 10, 15 minutes to go a third or a fourth of the distance I usually do. I mean, I'm talking about a 30-minute mile pace here.
Yeah.
So very
you were
slow.
having to walk really
Yeah, man.
slow.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
basically more of a limp than anything. And I had, surgeon approved and everything, so I was good to walk. That next day, I went a little bit farther down the road and around the corner, but probably about the same pace. So that was Thursday. That Friday, a little bit farther, about the same pace. That Saturday, finally could do, my usual 10-minute route that I usually do with Cora. Couldn't take Cora because she'll pull me and pop my stitches right out.
Yeah.
But she, anyways, where I was trying to go with that is really I've just been focusing every day on doing what I can and trying to do a little bit more, because I think it's, health and wellness, man, particularly fitness, is one of those things where we get so concerned with the things that we can't control, right? And that, I think that's everything from the excuse of genetics to knowledge to physical capability to, the 45-year-old guy in the gym that said, well, I used to bench 3 plates before I blew my shoulder out. And it's well, yeah, man, but there's other things that you could focus on or do.
Exactly.
And I guess where I'm trying to go with that, man, is it's sometimes things are just out of your control.
Mm-hmm. And you have to readjust.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you did with this.
Yeah.
You were training weightlifting before. Like you said, you had that bodybuilding competition you were prepping for. Shit happened.
Yeah.
You needed surgery.
Yep.
Instead of, sulking and kind of just chilling, you decided, well, hey, I can walk. Maybe I can't build muscle right now, but I can lose fat.
Right.
I'm going to go on a trip soon. So that'll align with, me looking and feeling better for that trip. So boom, you're good. You have something to do now.
Right.
Even with, the limitations that you have.
Right.
You're still progressing
Right.
in some kind of way, which is really cool.
Yeah, man. And I don't know about you personally, but I am one, man, I have to have some sort of structure or some sort of, thing
Yes.
I'm working towards or doing, or otherwise, man, I revert back to 15-year-old Alex playing World of Warcraft for 12 hours a day and eating fucking Taco Bell and bags of Cool Ranch Doritos. Yeah, man, you know my staple. So it's just one of those things, man, where it's almost like it's not only the physical point of moving and making progress, but it's the mental point, right?
Yeah.
It's the keeping yourself aware and in check. And, sometimes I feel like when I talk about it, and this might just be a point on my end and my inability to communicate, but sometimes when I talk about it, it almost sounds like I'm a slave to myself and that I make myself do those things. But I choose to do those things because I know I'm my better self when I do those things.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
So I'm not like waving the finger at anybody who didn't walk 3 days after surgery or whatever. That's not what I'm trying to get across here. Like, my point is that I know for me personally, I feel my best mentally when I do what I can.
Yeah.
You
understand that, like, the things you do now will affect how you feel, how you look, how whatever in the future. Yeah. So you do what you have to do.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the phrase "feeling follows action"?
Feeling follow. I believe in that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that phrase, but that's so true.
100%.
Yeah.
And I cannot even get close to expressing to you how many times I've had a client come in who either was not in the mood, was in some sort of pain, was having some kind of bad day, and by the end of that session, man, I don't want to sit here and say they were feeling great and they were good to go, but they were a hell of a lot better than when they walked in there.
Oh yeah.
And so sometimes I think, especially, if you're someone who's dealing with a surgery or a setback or something along those lines, you can get really caught in this whole like, woe is me, and then start feeling bad for yourself. And then, man, that shit, like, I'm so hesitant to even take one step in that direction because it's so easy for that to just snowball into so much more.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like when you get in that, area, you want to stay in there. But when it comes to like working out and feeling better, I know when I was recently going through some stuff and I would force myself to go to the gym, I noticed that I would feel better for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so I took that knowledge, and when I was feeling shitty, I'd make myself go to the gym.
Yeah.
So something that I didn't want to do, and I'd go to the gym, and then boom, I'd feel way better for the rest of the day. So that's just like, yeah, sometimes you may not want to do, what you want to do in the moment, but if you understand that it will benefit you in the future, then yeah, just go knock it out.
Right. And I think part of that is like picking your process and sticking to your process.
Yes.
Because that, for lack of a better term, I don't want to say that takes emotion out of it, but that turns into like, obviously I couldn't walk for a couple of days, but everybody and their mom knows that I'm the guy who walks every morning, So it was like, it's a big part of my routine and my mental health and what I like to do. Yeah, man, it's huge for me. It's literally my favorite way to start the day. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as I could, I walked, and not to the best of my ability, not anywhere close to like my usual pace, or, I mean, even honestly, even those first couple of days were like not even really enjoyable just because I was kind of pissed off about the whole situation. But, it's one of those things where like, I just needed to stay in that routine and to get some sunshine, get some endorphins, move a little bit, because otherwise I get out of bed and then I go sit on the couch and then I'm going to watch TV, or I'm going to, order something off DoorDash or something. You know what I mean? Like it spirals, man. And so it becomes this thing where it's like, I'm just trying to almost, it's one thing of maintaining good habits, because good habits, I think, keep you ahead of bad habits.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that that's something that's maybe a little bit overlooked, is it's like, if you're setting yourself up for success or setting the tone to your day, however you want to phrase that, you put yourself in the driver's seat.
You're building
Does
momentum.
That make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Like you saying that, it's harder, or it shields yourself from those bad, habits when you're doing those good habits. That's because, you're building momentum.
Right.
Like if you do 1 day of walking, obviously it's pretty easy to cut that habit,
Yeah.
The next day. But if you do a month of walking,
Right.
Every morning, it's going to feel weird not walking that, the first day after that month, but I think that goes, both ways. If you're, starting off bad habits, you need to cut that like really quick.
Yeah.
Because you're going to start building momentum for those bad habits.
Yep.
And then whenever you, decide, oh, wait, this is pretty bad, I should do this, this, and this. Well, it's going to be a lot harder implementing those good habits now that you've built that momentum for those bad habits.
You're exactly right. Yeah. And man, whether you like it or not, like humans are creatures of habit.
Yes.
We are creatures of habit, man. And so it's one of those things where I don't know if you've ever done this, but I for sure have been guilty before. I say guilty. I for sure have done this before, but it's like, oh, I'm on my way home and I have tons of calories and, it's been a long day, so I'm going to stop and, hit whatever fast food drive-through or do whatever. I find that the next day I do the same thing. Yeah. 2 days later, I do the same thing. Exactly. 3 days later, I do the same thing. And it's like, yeah, if you do it once, maybe it's not a big deal, but it's more so that you're taking a step in that direction, if that makes sense.
It does.
Like in the grand scheme of things, one time it's not a big deal. But when you think that like, that tiny snowball could turn into a big ass avalanche, maybe that's just like somewhere you want to stay away from. And, I would say someone like me who has been, upwards of 30% body fat and as low as 4 to 5% body fat, like I definitely don't have a normal relationship with food.
Yeah.
So that's something that I do my best to,
control.
Similar to the walking, right? Like I try to walk as much as I can, man, or every day for the sake of the good habit and the consistency. Whereas I try to stay away from those types of food decisions because of the bad consistency that comes with that. It's like as soon as you feel that comfort, you're going to keep going back to it.
Yeah, and your own weaknesses, your own strengths. So because you're saying that you maybe don't have the best relationship with foods, that you have to be disciplined in that area, or more disciplined in that area than maybe other areas in your life.
So it's going to be
it's going to be different for every person. So find out like what, for the people watching this, find out what your weaknesses are, what you may be susceptible to. And just add some extra padding there.
And for some people that could be something like, it's hard for them to build a workout routine. So, if they're having a crazy day and suddenly they miss their hour of workout, well, it's like, all right, man, well then you better post up and do 20 knee push-ups and 100 squats or something like that. You know what I mean? Just for the sake of doing it, Or if, again, you're like me and you're someone that you take one step in that food direction and it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, well, what kind of, healthy snacks can we have at the ready? How can I be, on top of my meals every day so I don't feel like I need to eat more? Can I get like a sparkling water instead of a Coke, or you know what I mean? Like
so
it's
something
just,
to like tiptoe on that border.
Something to
get maybe what you
something
want,
to get you the satisfaction without having to go down that road.
Exactly.
It's because there's people out there, man, who can have like, a bite of something, and there's other people who like won't even do that because it's going to lead to who knows what, And I've always found personally, like, you're at a Mexican restaurant or a party or something and there's a bowl of chips out, right? To me, it's way easier to not do any chips than to just do one chip.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with chips or enjoying yourself or anything like that. That was just the example that comes to mind.
But when you have a delicious bowl of crisp chips with some salsa.
Exactly. Yeah, man.
I went to Gloria's the other day
fresh.
and I ate
you
a
can smell
basket,
them. Yeah,
man.
they're still kind of warm. It's salty and crispy. Yeah, man. Yeah, La Hacienda is my go-to Mexican place. Yeah, for sure.
That place is good.
But yeah, man. But it's just one of those things where you have to be like deadly careful with your habits, and I think that's true everywhere. I've talked with clients who they figured out how they ended up at their worst point. Some people that's like, well, every morning I did Whataburger on the way to work. Some people that's like, every morning I had a large Coke from McDonald's and a breakfast burrito. And then it's like those habits, man, like in a once isolated isolated, event or whatever you want to call it, is really not a big deal. But it's when that thing compounds again
becomes
and again
a habit.
and again and again. Man, when I was like 16 or 17, I used to have 2 peanut butter jelly sandwiches and a glass of milk every single night.
That sounds delicious, by the way.
It does sound delicious, but it doesn't look delicious on your body.
No, exactly.
Because man, it was just one of those things where it's like I did it once because I was like, I don't know, I was like up playing video games in the middle of the night and I was starving, I did it once, and then I was like, oh, that was kind of nice. And then the next night, I'm up in the middle of the night playing video games, and so I'm like, oh, let me get and the next day, the next day, and it's one of those things where it's like, man, you got to be like, you got to be hesitant with steps like that.
Yeah, these habits that you're building, positive or negative, they become a part of your thought process, a part of your belief systems, a part of your physical appearance. Like it literally becomes who you are.
Yep, you are what you do every day.
I feel like that sounds cliche as hell, but oh my gosh, it's so true.
Yeah, you are what you do every day.
Yeah, if you don't like one of the things, for example, that I'm, I guess, seeing right now, for when I was in my funk for, the past like 3.5 months, whatever, I was always thinking very negatively and blah, blah, blah. Woe is me. Even though I was able to, do whatever I had to do during the day. But I just started listening to this audio book called The Magic of Thinking Big. I've read the book a couple of times, but I just came across it, started playing it, and the first chapter talks about belief in yourself and then like negative self-talk. Yeah. And so every morning since about like a week and a half ago, I've been listening to that. And dude, like I've been way happier just these 1.5 weeks than I have been in the past 4 months. And it was literally me just habitually every morning thinking that, hey, today's a wonderful day. Like it sounds cliche, but those simple thoughts became a part of my actual reality. Right. So something as simple as that made that big of an effect on my life, you know? And yeah, it just goes to everything that you choose to or you decide to do or not to do will affect you as a person.
I agree with that. Well, and I like what you said about the positive and negative self-talk, because I'm guilty of doing some negative self-talk personally. I think we all are to some extent, I think it's hard because we all maybe hold ourselves to a certain expectation or standard, and that, negative self-talk can tend to follow that if that standard or expectation is not met. But more so where I was trying to go with that is you have to be very careful with the things you say about yourself and the things that you believe out loud. Like I have a client who sometimes she'll miss a lift and she'll call herself a failure. And I'm like, man, you fucking A, you have to be careful with what you say. Yes. Because if you say it, your brain's going to believe it. And you
joking or not.
I could give a fuck less if it's a joke or not. You said it, you mean it. Every joke has a little bit of truth behind it, man. Like you have to be deadly careful with the things that you say and that you put into the air. It's call it whatever. Call it your energy, call it your aura, call it your beliefs, whatever, man. But it's like there are just certain things that you have to be very careful when you say, if they're about yourself or the things that you do or who you are or whatever. So I really like that you said that, because I think that that's something that kind of ties in together. Like, if you're someone who, whatever, is hitting McDonald's on the way home in the drive-thru every day, and then you start calling yourself a fat fuck, well, then
you're going to act like a fat fuck.
You're going to keep going to McDonald's every single time. If you're someone who can't wake up at the first ring of their alarm, and you're like, man, I can't wake up to that alarm.
Then
like
you
I
won't.
can't. No, Exactly. Then you won't, because you've told yourself in your head that you are a person that can't do that task or cannot do that thing or does this thing or that thing. You've categorized yourself, you've labeled yourself, and whether you consciously think it or not, you're going to act that way. Yeah. So it's deadly important, I think.
Especially, I think it's even more powerful if you're speaking those things out aloud.
Yep. Like 100%.
It's one thing to have them floating in your brain, because it's kind of like, just abstract, just moving around. I'm not saying that, it's good. It's definitely not. Yeah. But if you're speaking them out loud, then you're clearly defining those words and attributing them to yourself.
Yeah. And I'm glad you clarified saying that out loud, because I think it is 100% totally normal to have those thoughts. Yeah. If anything, you're probably a crazy narcissist if you don't have those thoughts at some point. Yeah. But the difference is communicating them and making them tangible and entertaining them. Yes. And, I guess if it's a problem and it's something you got to talk to someone about, that's a different scenario. But I'm sitting here saying, if you're calling yourself a failure every day, you're going to be a fucking failure. Yes. If you're calling yourself,
stupid
weak every day, you're going to be weak. Stupid every day, you're going to be stupid. Like it's super obvious, I think, because it's like either you keep on this trend of believing it and reaffirming it and saying it again and again and again, or you decide you just won't entertain it, you know? And so it's one of those things where I feel like it's so important to keep in the back of your brain. Your words have energy, man.
And I hope that, for the people who are listening to this, they don't just blow that whole segment off. Because I know, again, it sounds cliche.
Yeah.
It sounds like some self-help book BS.
Yeah.
But it is so true, man.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the definite truths that I can say about my life is whenever I'm speaking positively about myself,
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah.
I'm more confident. I'm able to do more things.
Yeah.
My ability is like a lot higher,
Yeah.
and everything is just way better.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Yeah, I think for me, the reason it took me a lot, it took me through the end of my childhood and into my teenage years to lose, the majority of my weight was because I was the fat kid, and that was that's what I just told myself, and that was sort of the box that I fit in, and so it was an incredible battle just to be able to not only not think of myself that way, but not do the things that made me that way. But it started with not saying those things. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's a lot easier if you just stop entertaining those ideas.
Yeah.
You stop manifesting them. Be careful with your words,
Be careful with your words and your thoughts.
Yes, 100%,
words are
man.
more powerful. Thoughts are gonna be with you all day, every day. So make sure that you actually have some influence on them.
Yeah, and it's like
go in the right direction.
Which ones are you going to entertain? And sometimes you might have to, spin that thought to make it something positive for yourself. Like, maybe, hey, this time I failed on this, but I can do X, Y, Z, so that next time I'm ready.
Exactly.
Or
and you're not self-defeating yourself when you say it like that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This time I couldn't get up to that alarm, but next time I'm gonna get to bed earlier and put that alarm farther away so I can't just snooze it, or something like that. I mean, it's, if you can have sort of an action plan that follows it, sure, but you should not just sit there thinking, I'm fat, I'm a failure, I'm this, I'm that. That's not going to...
It's like poison.
Yeah, literally I don't know if you're looking for empathy. I don't know if you're looking for a sad way. I don't know.
I think sometimes it does feel good to feel sad, but
100%. We all at some point I think like to feel bad for ourselves and
but
think
make that a
we
habit.
have it harder or we have it rough or think something's wrong with us or there's some reason why. And again, whether that's genetics or time or responsibilities or knowledge or whatever excuse under the sun that you want to make, it's like at the end of the day, everybody is working with a different set of cards and a different set of beliefs and a different set of, for lack of a better term, just mentalities, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. So, when it comes to getting through that surgery, that injury, whatever that thing might be, I think the biggest step, after doing what you can, and sometimes, doing what you can might be, I'm kind of tangenting here, but sometimes doing what you can, man, like if I couldn't walk at all, I guess then I would, maybe I would find a video series online or something I could learn about or something, you know what I mean? It's more so just the raw fact that it's something that's not going to leave me feeling like I'm
doing nothing.
Exactly. Yeah. But anyways, let me try to get this back on track. So, as far as it goes in reacclimating and getting back into the gym and back into those routines, something I think that is really important is respecting the injury or surgery or whatever it was and being very slow with your reacclimation. Mm-hmm. Some guys think that like, all right, I'm 4 weeks post-surgery, like my surgeon said, so now I'm good to go. So I'm going to go back to doing, 20 sets of chest and 20 sets of triceps and 20 sets of shoulder. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, it's not quite that simple. Like you have to crank yourself back up to that. And I always, with everything in this realm, man, I always encourage starting as small as you can. Mm-hmm. So, I've actually already written out on my programming for when I start again, 1 set on everything for the first 2 weeks.
There you go.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, man. After that, maybe 2 sets on stuff I like. But it's when you keep in the back of your brain that all of this is stimulus response and you've had no stimulus for whatever, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever your surgery or injury puts you at, your need for stimulus is so small. It's so minute. It's like, you can't expect yourself to just hit it 100 miles an hour right off the bat. You gotta start with 10 miles an hour. then 15, and then 20, and then, take your time working it back up so you don't end up regressing or landing worse where you were before.
Yeah.
You know?
That's very smart. I never completely utilize the power of progressive overloading.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really smart way to do it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you use the words progressive overload there. For those who are unaware, it's just a simple concept of each training session you want to do a little bit more so that way you can recover. But there's a phrase called the volume trap where, hyper beginners, brand new people will start doing like way too much. So they'll start where they'll like absolutely destroy themselves. They'll come into a workout and then they can't walk the next day. And what they don't understand is it's way too much stimulus. You don't have the capacity to properly respond to that.
Nope.
So that's why it's always been funny to me, man. And I've had so many conversations with clients like this that, there's personal trainers out there who like, it's a little bit of like a pride ego thing. Like I have the hardest workouts. Like people get fucked up the most when they train with me. Like we go hard. And it's like, okay, for like advanced athletes or someone who's nutrition and recovery and all that's on point, great. But like, that should not be the case for, soccer mom of 2 that's 45 with 2 knee replacements, man. Like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like the answer is not always pedal to the metal as much as you can, as hard as you can. It's do it right, work your way up to it, and add over time. Overreaching is probably something I see way too often in the gym. Just trying to do way too much.
Yeah, sometimes you think that you have to.
Yeah.
But like you said, if your stimulus bar is down here, then you only have to go right here to get what you need to do. You don't need to go up here.
Yeah.
And then have to recover for a whole week.
Yeah.
Until you can do your next workout.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's a very popular bodybuilder over in the UK. His name is, I might be wrong. I believe it's Jordan Peters. But he is kind of notorious. I say notorious. He's kind of known, notorious. He's kind of known for being like the progressive overload guy. So this is a dude that like, will do like 4 plates on each side on whatever, bench press or some shit like that. And he'll go for like 8 reps. And then the next week, he's going to put a 1 pound plate on each side and try to do 8 reps. He's upping his weight 2 pounds. And I'm just pulling numbers around, but you get my point here.
I do,
it's like, the point is not necessarily the numbers. It's not necessarily trying to get the numbers to increase. What's the way I'm trying to phrase this? You're looking for a stimulus. That stimulus needs to be just a little bit more than last time. That's all.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be 20 pounds more, 50 pounds more, 100 pounds more. It just needs to be a little bit more. However you quantify that. Sometimes that could even be like the same weight and the same reps, but maybe you pause in the hardest position, or maybe you slow the tempo down, or maybe your form is just better. So there's different ways to quantify that, but it's like, all right, if you could just imagine if you could just be 1% better every time. Like imagine being 1% better every time for 10 years.
That's a hell of a lot.
That's incredible. Yeah, man, that's a huge jump.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where I don't know if we get blinded by our ego and we just want to load up the bar. I don't know if we are impatient and we just want things as fast as we can. It might be some combination of all of that.
I know for me, it's just the fact that the results don't exist as of right now, or the results from 5 years from now doesn't exist now. So I'm like, fuck it.
Yeah, you're like, I'm trying to get results right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those results, 5 years from now, if I was to stay, consistent and do it the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be way better than the results I'd get from a month from now.
Yeah, 100%, man. Dang. All right, man. Will you hand me my phone? Let's get some questions going.
Let's do it.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to start ending each episode with a little Q&A section. For anyone who would like to ask a question, feel free to shoot a DM to Progress Through Change on Instagram. We are also posting on Story often, taking questions there as well. So we're going to see if we can knock a couple of these out and see what we think. Okay, this is a good one. What's the best indicator for you that a client will be successful? So before I answer that, because this sounds like it's to me since it's about a client, I'd like to know what you think. So I'm going to use the word client, but let's say a buddy wants to work out with you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a buddy wants to work out with you, and that buddy is ground zero. never worked out before, never done a nutrition or anything. I'm sure you've had this scenario before. How do you know that guy's going to be successful? What kind of
Enthusiasm?
Yes. Follow up on that.
If they're working, like, let's say there's two types of people that I've seen in the gym. One of them, they do a set, or in the middle of the workout, they just finished a set, and they're laying down on the floor, kind of like breathing heavy and like, oh, what the hell, man? Oh, no, whatever. And then there's another guy that's doing that but smiling.
Yeah,
it's like, hell yeah, this is awesome. Yeah. And whenever it's his turn to go again, he's jumping up, smiling, ready to go. Like, that's the person that I guess I enjoy, because, or that I think will be successful with training
long term.
Yeah, because they're very enthusiastic about it, and they're like up for the challenge every single time. They're ready.
They're ready to take the at bat.
Yeah. Even if they are, in a bunch of pain, they're still pretty excited to
do what they can.
Yeah, exactly.
To be there and do what they can. Yeah. I would say for me, I would 100% agree with that. Like, when someone gets excited after a set, or somebody gets like, hits a PR or something, and that enthusiasm and excitement is there. Mm-hmm. But I think a big part of it is the ability to accept your micro victories, your small wins, like whatever that might be, because it might not be the thing that you want right now. You might not be 20 pounds down right now, but you are 2 pounds down, and that's 10% of the way there.
That's a good point.
And you should feel good about that, because you're moving in the right direction. So I think it's the enthusiasm. Yes, I agree with you, but it's also the ability to see where you're going, see the progress that's being made. You notice that you could pick up that case of water bottles easier. Mm-hmm. You notice that new line that's in your bicep. You can tell that your waistband is moving a little bit,
because that's going to keep you addicted to it.
Yeah. It's not only that. You use the phrase like addicted to it, and I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's more so like knowing that it's working.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And on the flip side of that, I think it's the ability to acknowledge what you're doing is not working if it's not working.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, I haven't got stronger. I haven't been able to do more reps. My body hasn't changed at all. I feel the same. Like, at that point, you're doing something wrong. If you're training with me, that won't be the case. But I'm just saying, for maybe anybody who's, starting this endeavor on their own, it's like you have to find a way to honestly and accurately assess. Because, tons of women that I train, man, will seriously make some good progress. I'm talking like, a couple inches off the waist, a lot stronger, like different definition of the glutes and hamstrings and upper back and shoulders and arms. And, I see changes all the time, but obviously I'm biased, right? So I try not to be the one to bring it up. But then, I'll listen to self-talk from some people, and it's funny, we're ending back up on self-talk, man, but it really is. It's like, what are you telling yourself? What are you acknowledging? What are you taking your victories? Sure, man, your waist might not be like as tight as you want it to be right now, but look at your bicep. Or, whatever, your curls might not be as strong as you want them to be right now, but, look at how great your mobility is, and you can hit a full lunge now, whatever that means. But it's like the enthusiasm and the ability to take those wins and run with them.
Yes.
And not, you're not getting cocky, you're not getting comfortable or anything, but it's like, all right, I know what I'm doing is working.
Yeah.
It's some reaffirmation. It's a checkpoint. It's a micro victory. It's 1% better. It's 0.5% better, whatever that means. So, yeah. Let's do one more.
Uno más.
Uno más. Do you use a different method/approach with each client? And if so, how do you determine what method would be best for that particular client? That's a good question. So I don't really know how to address the method/approach, but I would say it's different for everybody. And that's mainly because the process is different for everybody. Mm-hmm. So, that could be goal dependent. That could be personality dependent. That could be level of priority dependent, right? Somebody might be coming in to see me and this is their number one priority in their life right now. Somebody could be coming in to see me and they have, a full-time job and 3 kids and 2 other business endeavors and, and so training is like priority 5 or 6, so that's going to be a big part of it. I got to look at the question again.
That's a good point, though. I never thought about those other categories.
Yeah, well, it is, man. Like, you have to kind of keep that in the back of your brain because otherwise, like, everybody doesn't want to be Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
And that's okay, But so I would say the method/approach is going to be different for everybody because sometimes I have some clients who like basically just want me to murder them for an hour, and it's like they want the hardest variations. They want to do triple drop sets. They want to have the sickest pump. They want to be the biggest guy in the gym. And then I have some people who it's like, all right, well, we're looking to make progress, but I don't want to be sore tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But so a lot of that is going to depend. But as far as like the method would be for the best particular client, that's a hard one. I would say the biggest part, I think, is learning the individual, figuring out what exactly they want from it, and figuring out like not only where their failure point is, but how close they're willing to go to that.
So implementing that would take, a while.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And it's a bit of a process because to some people failure, and when I say failure, I'm talking about form failure, like your ability to do the exercise properly, not just do the exercise.
Yeah.
But some people will go to like actual failure. But some people will stop at 5 shy of failure and call it failure because it's uncomfortable. And there's nothing, obviously it's better to go to true failure, sure. But, if that individual calls that their failure, okay, that tells me this is how I'm kind of going to moving forward. If I think you can do 15 to 20, I'm going to ask you for 15. If I think you can do 20 to 25, I'm going to ask you for 20.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody who's like, reaching to the best of their ability each time, the only reason they fail is because they truthfully cannot do it, not that they chose not to do it. That was a lot of words. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that not that they can't do it, but that they choose not to do it. It's going to adjust what exercises I pick, how much volume we do, and things like that.
Gotcha.
Because someone who I can get to go to true failure, maybe you only need 2 sets on one specific body part. But if someone's trying to maybe stop a few reps shy of failure, they don't want to be too sore tomorrow, maybe we do more sets, less reps, and keep everything at whatever 70-80% of the way there.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's going to be pretty case dependent. But as far as like if the question is method or style or approach, typically everybody works in some sort of superset or circuit. So usually I have everybody doing exercise 1, exercise 2, we'll rest for a little bit. Exercise 1, exercise 2, we'll rest for a little bit, and then we'll move on to exercise 3, exercise 4, we'll rest a little bit. Exercise 3, exercise 4, we'll rest a little bit. And that's really just because I think that's the most efficient way to approach it. But some people have different goals. Like if we're powerlifting, all right, well we're going to be deadlifting for half an hour and then benching for half an hour.
Yeah.
So it's going to be case dependent for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely case dependent.
Yeah, cool. So let's wrap it up there, man. We will call it a day. Thank you all for listening.
See you.
Peace.